Have you ever wondered why love, the most sacred force in existence, can bring us to our knees in agony? Why something so radiant, so full of light, often leaves us wandering through the darkest corridors of our soul? We are taught that love is joy, that it will make us whole, but few prepare us for the truth, that love also splits us open, that it demands everything and promises nothing, that it awakens parts of us we didn't know were asleep, only to make us fear losing them the moment they come alive. Maybe it's because love is the one thing that refuses to be controlled. It cannot be possessed. It cannot be predicted. Love is the sacred fire, warm and healing but wild. If you try to hold it too tightly, it slips through your fingers. If you try to cage it, it dies. And yet we reach for it anyway, again and again. To love is to surrender, to place your beating heart into the hands of another, without assurance that they'll cherish it, protect it, or even keep it. And yet, we do it not because we are foolish, but because something deep within us remembers that love is the only thing that makes this fleeting existence truly meaningful. Think of it like this. Loving someone is like stepping into the ocean at night. You feel the pull of something greater than yourself. You can't see the bottom. You don't know what lies beneath, but you walk forward anyway, step by trembling step, because something in the depth calls to you, some silent knowing that says, this is where life begins. There's a story, a quiet, almost forgotten tale that comes from the mountains of Japan. A young monk once fell in love with a woman who came to the monastery's garden every morning. She never spoke. She simply sat by the koi pond, eyes closed, as if listening to something only she could hear. The monk, devoted to silence, found himself breaking inside. He prayed to forget her. He fasted to purge her from his thoughts. But love, true love, doesn't leave at your request. It lingers. It waits. It deepens. Eventually, the monk broke his vow and approached her. With trembling lips, he whispered, "I think I love you." And she smiled, not because she loved him back, but because she knew. She had always known. "Then let it hurt," she said. "Let it change you. That's what love is for." And just like that, she left. He never saw her again, but something in him had opened, something wild, raw, and sacred. He never took another vow of silence. Instead, he spent his life writing poetry, each word soaked in longing, in loss, and in love. Love, in its purest form, is never safe. It never has been. It's not meant to be. Safety is for walls, for cages, for graves. But love, real love, is for those willing to live without armor. It is for those who choose to feel everything, even if it breaks them, especially if it breaks them. Because love is not the opposite of pain. Love includes pain. It carries it, holds it, transforms it. Love is the soul's way of remembering where it came from and where it longs to return. So yes, to love is to risk being wounded, but to never love is to never live. And that, perhaps, is the greater tragedy. When you love someone, you offer them your whole heart. You hand them a piece of your soul, trusting them to handle it gently, hoping they won't shatter it. You trust that they'll stand by you through everything, no matter what. But people leave. They always do, don't they? Maybe not today or tomorrow, but someday, love turns into silence. It turns into distance. Sometimes the person you loved isn't even the same person anymore. The fear lingers, quietly, whispering, what if? What if they stop choosing me? What if I'm not enough? What if they change? Love exposes us. It drags our deepest insecurities to the surface. It shows us the parts of ourselves we hide, even from our own reflection. But the truth is, love doesn't just hurt because people leave. It hurts because it matters. If love didn't matter, it wouldn't cut so deep. They say there are 7 stages of love. Each one brings its own challenges, rewards, and pain. But it's the willingness to embrace both love and pain that allows us to experience the full depth of our emotions. It's a risk worth taking, even if it means getting burned along the way. Let me be honest, those 7 stages are far from pretty. They're not easy, not always worth it, but they are real and they are painful. The first stage is the spark, the moment you meet them, and everything feels effortless. The butterflies, the excitement, the feeling that the world is different, like you're living in a dream. And in that moment, you believe this could be it. Then comes stage 2, the getting to know each other phase. You start peeling back the layers and realizing that they have their flaws, their fears, and their own battles. And you wonder, can I love them through this? Can I really accept them for all that they are, both the light and the dark? Stage 3 is intimacy, the point where love deepens. You share parts of yourself that you've never shared with anyone, your secrets, your fears, your past. You give them pieces of yourself you've guarded for so long, trusting them to see you, not just the good, but the broken too. Stage 4 is conflict, the moment the cracks start to show. You argue, you misunderstand each other, you hurt each other without meaning to. The illusion of perfection starts to fade. Stage 5 is the realization that not all things can be fixed. No matter how hard you try, some pieces will never fit again. The connection still exists, but it's changed. And then comes stage 6, loss. This one hits hardest. The distance grows, and the silence becomes deafening. You feel them slipping away, piece by piece, and you don't know how to stop it. Finally, stage 7, the death of love. No, it's not always literal death, but it's the end of something real. Whether it fades slowly or ends suddenly, it leaves you with a hole in your chest. But what's worse than the loss is the aftershocks, the quiet moments that follow, the pauses in conversation where their voice used to be, the space in your bed that still remembers their shape. You think the hardest part is the goodbye, but it's not. It's the silence that comes after, the silence that stretches across your days like fog, clinging to your skin, entering your breath. Love has a strange way of lingering. Even when it's gone, it remains, not in the loud ways, but in the small things. The way you stir your tea because that's how they liked it. The way your favorite song feels different now, as if the melody still carries their laughter somewhere between the notes. And it's not just the memories that haunt you, it's the you that existed when you were with them. A version of yourself that came alive in their presence. You don't just mourn their absence, you mourn the part of you that they unlocked. That's the wound no one talks about. The love may have died, but the version of you that loved them still breathes, and it aches for a place to belong. You try to move on, you try to forget, but forgetting is not healing, it's just burying. And buried love still whispers, it still dreams, it still bleeds. There's an old Persian story about a man named Kian who once loved a woman with a soul like wildfire. Their love burned so bright that even the stars grew jealous, but as all fires do, it consumed itself. She left, not with malice, but with the quiet ache of someone who knows they can't stay. Years passed. Kian married, had children, grew old, but every spring, when the wind shifted, he would still walk the path they once wandered, not to find her, but to find himself again, the version of him who once believed in forever. And every year, he would sit beneath the same olive tree, eyes closed, and whisper, "Even in her absence, she teaches me how to love," because that's what love does. It echoes through you. It teaches you long after it's gone. It imprints itself not just on your heart, but on your being. And no, it doesn't always fade. Sometimes it transforms. Sometimes it becomes the quiet force that shapes your soul without asking for recognition. And here's the truth we rarely speak. Love isn't just about the good times. It's not about the butterflies or the shared sunsets or the laughter echoing in the hallway. It's about all of it, the trembling vulnerability, the loss, the ache, the way it undoes you and rebuilds you over and over again. Because if love were only light, we would never see our shadows. If love were only pleasure, we would never touch the depths of our pain. And it is in those depths, when everything falls away and only the echo remains, that we finally come to understand what love truly is. It is not an emotion. It is not a memory. It is not even a person. Love is the soul's response to recognizing itself in another. And in that recognition, something eternal is born. So if you still feel the echo of someone you once loved, don't silence it. Listen to it. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a reminder you have loved deeply, you have lived fully, and nothing real is ever truly lost. There's a story of Mahmoud Darwish, a poet whose love for his homeland became his life's defining force. His love was profound, yet profoundly painful, like an ache in the bones that never quieted, like a river longing to find its ocean, forever seeking and never arriving. Darwish loved Palestine not merely as a place on the map, but as something alive within his very soul. It was the scent of jasmine on a summer evening, the whisper of olive trees under a patient moon, the laughter echoing in crowded streets, the stories told in quiet courtyards. Palestine was not just land, it was breath, It was the pulse beneath his skin, the beat within his heart. It was his reason, his muse, his beloved, and yet life took him away. Exiled, separated from everything he knew, Darwish carried his homeland within him like a hidden treasure, a beautiful wound that never healed. Each step he took away from Palestine deepened his love, widened his wound. His poetry became his only way back. Words became bridges, verses became roads, leading him home again, if only in spirit. In exile, Darwish discovered something strange and beautiful. Love does not require presence. Even separated from his homeland, his love for it deepened into something transcendent. His longing became spiritual. It moved beyond physical places and spaces. Palestine lived inside his heartbeat, danced within his dreams, spoke through the ink of his pen. Once, Darwish wrote, "I come from there, and I have memories. I am from there, and I have dreams." These simple words carry profound spiritual truth. Love roots itself in memory, dreams, and imagination. It lives in us long after we leave the things we love. Like Darwish, each of us carries the echoes of our loves and losses within our souls. We carry our past as landscapes within us, each memory blooming like hidden gardens beneath our skin. There's an ancient myth from Greece about Orpheus, whose beloved Eurydice was taken by death. His grief so deep, his love so powerful, that he journeyed into the underworld to reclaim her. His music was so soulful, so full of longing, that even the coldest heart softened. Yet on the brink of reunion, in one moment of human weakness, one single look back, he lost her forever. Still, Orpheus's love didn't fade away. Instead, it became music. It became poetry. It became something greater than Eurydice herself. It became a universal symbol of eternal longing, the spiritual truth that love outlasts even loss. Darwish's love was no different. He understood profoundly that true love is never owned or possessed. It does not fade simply because we are apart from what we cherish most. Love is not limited by geography, time, or even death. It grows deeper in absence, stronger in longing. He wrote, "And when the heart is wounded, it beats with a broken rhythm, but it still beats, it still loves." This rhythm, broken yet persistent, is perhaps the purest form of spiritual truth. To truly love means embracing its fractures, its wounds, its incompleteness. Real love does not need perfection to exist. It thrives precisely in our brokenness, in our absence, in our pain. It is through the cracks that love's true power shines brightest. Perhaps the deepest truth of Darwish's story, of all our stories, is that love is fundamentally spiritual. It doesn't depend on having, holding, or even touching. It is a deeper communion, a soul's recognition of something eternal in the object of its affection. To love profoundly is to touch eternity, if only for a moment. And once you've touched eternity, you're forever changed, forever marked by the knowledge that love itself transcends everything mortal. And that is why Darwish's poetry still resonates, still moves souls to tears and hearts to ache, because in his broken rhythm beats the very rhythm of life itself, imperfect, wounded, and yet profoundly beautiful, profoundly true. His words are reminders to us all that true love, spiritual love, always remains, long after everything else has gone silent. So let your heart beat brokenly if it must. Let it carry its scars proudly. Let your love grow deeper, richer, even as it hurts, even as it longs, because it is in this broken rhythm that your soul speaks loudest, and it is through love's wounds that your spirit truly awakens. Maybe the real question isn't why does love hurt? Maybe it's something deeper, something that requires us to look honestly at ourselves and ask, would you truly want a love that didn't? Imagine a life without ever daring to risk your heart, safe, comfortable, untouched by sorrow, but ultimately hollow. Imagine a life untouched by tears, untouched by longing. It sounds peaceful, perhaps, but is that really living? Would the heart, in its silent isolation, ever know its full capacity? The truth is that love and pain are not opposing forces. They dance together, intimately woven into the fabric of existence itself. It is precisely through the pain that love reveals its truest depth, its greatest beauty. Pain is not punishment. It is evidence, proof that you dared, proof that you loved so completely that the loss feels unbearable. Pain is love's silent way of whispering, you were brave enough to open your heart fully. Think about the great forests that stand ancient and proud. Their beauty, their majesty doesn't come from perfection. Their grandeur comes from the storms they've endured. Every broken branch, every scarred bark tells the story of survival, resilience, and growth. Each wound has deepened the tree's roots, strengthened its resolve. Like these trees, your scars, the quiet marks left by love, are signs of strength, signs that your soul has weathered storms and emerged wiser, deeper, more authentic. There's a story of a painter whose greatest masterpiece was inspired by the deepest heartbreak he ever knew. He had loved a woman with every fiber of his being, but their love was destined to break. When she left, the pain became unbearable. In his grief, he painted, day after day, month after month, pouring every fragment of his soul onto the canvas. When he was finished, people stood before his art and wept. They felt something indescribable. They felt alive. His pain had become his art, his wound his greatest teacher. Love had broken him open, and in doing so, revealed his true greatness. Pain doesn't define you, it refines you. It sculpts you into a deeper version of yourself, one capable of compassion, understanding, and wisdom. It forces you to look inward and discover who you truly are beneath the surface, beneath your armor. It asks you to confront the raw truth of your humanity, your vulnerability, your essence. Even in your darkest moments, when the ache feels overwhelming, when your heart feels as though it might never heal, remember this: it is through your greatest wounds that your deepest healing occurs. In the silence of your brokenness, you are not destroyed. You are reborn. You are reshaped into something richer, something more profound. Embrace the imperfections, the heartbreak, the silent longing. Let it flow through you. Let it shape you. Pain is not an enemy to be feared. It is the sacred fire through which your soul is purified, transformed, made whole. In every scar, there is hidden wisdom. In every tear, hidden grace. So do not run from the ache. Hold it gently, like a precious gift. Because when you accept the pain as part of your story, you become truly free. Free from fear, free from regret. You understand that to have loved deeply, even once, means you have touched the divine. You have glimpsed eternity. Love, in all its beautiful, painful messiness, is your greatest teacher. Allow it to show you the path to who you truly are, beyond the masks, beyond the illusions. Trust the process. Trust love, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because it is through the deepest darkness that we find our way back to the purest light. Breathe in the ache. Let it remind you of your bravery, your courage, your willingness to live fully, to risk everything for love. Let it remind you that you are human, that you are alive, and in that quiet space within your heart, whisper gently to yourself, yes, it hurts, but I have loved. And know, in that simple sacred truth, you have found meaning, you have found peace, you have found the purpose of it all.